The rain fell softly over the evening sky, as if the clouds themselves were weeping quietly. The scent of wet earth drifted through the small courtyard, and there stood Emily Carter, a woman who had spent years giving everything to her home, her husband, and her mother-in-law, without ever asking for anything in return. Emily had married Daniel Carter, a man who appeared gentle and caring on the surface. He spoke softly, smiled easily, and always seemed considerate. Yet when it came to decisions, he often bent to the will of his mother. Margaret Carter, Daniel's mother, was a woman of strong presence and commanding authority. Every decision in the house, every family matter, she believed, should pass through her hands first. Her voice was firm, her gaze sharp, and her expectations were unyielding. Emily never complained. She never argued. She never raised her voice. She simply carried her responsibilities quietly, holding her dreams close to her heart. After Emily's father passed away shortly after her marriage, she was left to manage the small family bakery her father had built from scratch. It wasn't just a business. It was a legacy, the last piece of him she could hold on to. Emily treated the bakery with love, devotion, and care. Every morning, she rose before dawn, kneading dough, experimenting with new recipes, and slowly building it into a business that people in the city admired. But Daniel and Margaret never seemed to see it that way. "The bakery? It's just a small shop. You women shouldn't be running businesses," Margaret once said sharply. "All this effort, it's only because of our family connections, not her talent," Daniel added weakly. Emily endured their words in silence. She had learned long ago that silence was her shield. But silence has a limit. One rainy night, as Emily returned from the bakery, she heard hushed voices in the courtyard. She paused, heart tightening, listening carefully. "We need to get her to sign over the business," Margaret said in a low, controlled tone. "If it stays under her name, it could cause problems," Daniel replied nervously. "She has to understand. It's better for the family if it's under our name," Margaret added. Emily froze. Sign over the business? Under their name? Her hands clenched, her breath caught. The people she had trusted most, her husband and her mother-in-law, were plotting behind her back. Emily's mind raced. Anger, hurt, and disbelief collided inside her. Her husband, the man she had given her life to, and his mother, the woman she had cared for like a second mother. They were planning to take away everything she had worked for. But Emily didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't confront them. Not yet. She simply stayed hidden, listening as the rain soaked her hair and dripped onto her shoulders. That night, Emily made a silent decision. She would not break. She would not beg. She would not fight blindly. She would gather the truth, and the truth could only be proven with documents. She spent the next few hours in quiet determination, going through old contracts, bank statements, and the bakery's legal papers. Every detail mattered. Every record, every signed lease, every tax form could be the key to protecting the business her father had built. Days passed, and Emily worked even harder. She managed the bakery, smiled at customers, and kept the house running, all while silently collecting evidence, making copies of every document, and double-checking every legal detail. Daniel noticed the change in her demeanor. "Emily, what are you doing?" he asked one evening, worry and guilt mixing in his voice. Emily looked up, calm and steady. "Just making sure everything in the bakery is organized," she said, hiding the storm that raged behind her eyes. Margaret, on the other hand, was impatient. "This is taking too long. She will never agree to give it up. Are you sure we're doing the right thing?" Emily smiled to herself quietly. She knew something they didn't. The real power wasn't in manipulation or coercion. It was in preparation, in truth, and in proof. And she had it already. One evening, after weeks of silent observation and careful planning, Emily finally felt ready. She had copies of every important document, every agreement, and every proof that the bakery belonged rightfully to her father's legacy, and now to her. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. Rain pelted the windows as she quietly placed the documents in a folder. She could hear Daniel in the living room, pacing nervously, while Margaret was muttering impatiently about delays. Emily took a deep breath. This was her moment. She would not raise her voice. She would not cry. She would let the truth speak for itself. Tomorrow, everything would change, because sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones, those who wait, prepare, and reveal the truth at just the right moment. Emily had been silent for too long, but silence, when paired with preparation, could be more powerful than anger, more formidable than lies, and more piercing than betrayal. And soon, Daniel and Margaret would learn that the woman they underestimated was not someone they could manipulate or control. The rain continued to fall, washing the earth clean as Emily looked out the window, a quiet determination shining in her eyes. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. Tomorrow they would see who truly owned the legacy. The morning sunlight poured softly through the kitchen window, highlighting the tiny bakery with a warm golden glow. Emily Carter moved quietly, her hands steady as she prepared pastries for the day. To any casual observer, it was just another ordinary morning, filled with the hum of ovens, the scent of fresh bread, and the soft chatter of early customers. But Emily's mind was elsewhere. She felt the weight of what she had discovered, and the storm that had silently brewed in her household was now about to spill over. Her husband, Daniel, and his mother, Margaret, had plotted to take the bakery from her, something she had nurtured from the ground up. And now, armed with the documents that proved her ownership, she was ready to face them. As the first customer left with a warm loaf of sourdough, Emily carefully placed the folder containing all the legal papers onto the counter. She looked at it like a sword, a shield, and a weapon all in one. Everything her father had built, everything she had protected and grown, it all rested in her hands. Meanwhile, at the living room of their modest home, Daniel and Margaret were arguing quietly, but the tension was palpable. "We need to talk to her today," Margaret whispered, her voice sharp and commanding. Daniel hesitated, running a hand nervously through his hair. "I don't know if she'll agree. She's been acting different lately. I think she suspects something." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Then we have to act faster. If she refuses, the business could be ours within legal loopholes. You just need to convince her." Gently. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. He had never been a man of confrontation, and facing Emily, the woman he had always loved but increasingly underestimated, terrified him. Back in the bakery, Emily had already made her plan. She would not confront them in anger or desperation. No shouting, no pleading, only truth. Truth, backed by undeniable proof, could dismantle any lie. As the clock struck noon, she called Daniel to the bakery. His heart skipped a beat. He had never been called there alone like this. Margaret insisted on following, her expression a mixture of curiosity and impatience. Emily sat behind the counter, calm, almost serene. She slid the folder toward them. "This is everything," she said softly. "The ownership papers, tax documents, leases, and all agreements related to the bakery. It's all here." Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Margaret leaned over, scanning the papers quickly, expecting loopholes, expecting weaknesses. But as her eyes moved from page to page, her face shifted from confidence to shock. This can't be," Margaret whispered, her voice shaking slightly. Emily's voice was steady, almost gentle. "It is. Every document, every contract, every legal record shows that this bakery belongs to my father's estate, and by extension to me. I have taken care to ensure that nothing could be transferred without my consent." Daniel looked at Emily, his guilt plain on his face. "Emily, Don't," Emily said firmly. "There's nothing to explain. What's done is done, but now you will see that trying to manipulate the truth will not work. I have kept quiet for months, observing, preparing, ensuring that the bakery and my father's legacy would remain protected." Margaret's eyes narrowed, her pride wounded. You were planning this all along?" Emily nodded. "I was planning to protect what is rightfully mine, and now you know the consequences of betrayal." There was silence. The only sound was the soft patter of rain beginning again against the bakery windows. You can't just take it all back," Margaret said finally, her voice almost a whisper. "I don't need to take it back," Emily replied. "It was never yours to take. You tried to manipulate, coerce, and plan behind my back. I chose to remain silent until the truth could be presented clearly. And now, here it is." Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to say something, anything, but the weight of his actions pressed down on him. He had underestimated Emily's strength, her intelligence, and her unwavering dedication. Emily took a deep breath. "This is not about punishment. It's about fairness, about respect. The bakery was my father's dream, and I have honored it every day. It will continue to grow, and I will continue to manage it. That's the only way it should be." Margaret's hands trembled as she folded her arms, a rare vulnerability crossing her face. She had never seen Emily so composed, so unshakable. You've changed," Margaret said, almost begrudgingly. "You're not the quiet, submissive girl we knew." Emily allowed herself a small, calm smile. "I am still the same Emily you knew, but I have also learned to protect myself, my work, and my family's legacy." Silent sacrifice is only powerful when paired with knowledge, preparation, and courage. Daniel looked away, ashamed. Emily? I'm sorry, I didn't realize. You realized too late, Emily said softly. But apologies don't undo actions. Actions do, and now the actions speak for themselves. For the first time in months, Daniel understood the depth of Emily's resilience. She was not a woman to be underestimated, and the quiet determination he had ignored for years had become an unyielding force. Margaret, still reeling from the revelation, finally spoke again. What? What do you want from us? Emily looked at them calmly, her voice steady. Respect, honesty, and from now on, no interference in my work. The bakery will continue to be managed the way it should be, with integrity, dedication, and care. That's all I ask. The room was heavy with tension. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside the house, but Emily's calmness, her unwavering certainty, had shifted the power entirely. Margaret straightened, realizing she had been outmaneuvered. Fine, she said finally, her pride still strong, but tempered with reluctant acceptance. Daniel nodded silently, understanding that the woman he had once underestimated had just taught them both a lesson in courage, patience, and strength. Emily returned to her work, slicing bread and arranging pastries as if nothing had happened. But inside, she felt a quiet triumph, a sense of empowerment that only comes from standing firm, speaking truth, and protecting what is yours. And as the day went on, customers continued to enter, unaware of the drama that had unfolded. The bakery hummed with life, the scent of fresh bread filled the air, and Emily moved with quiet grace, knowing that she had defended not just her father's legacy, but her own dignity, courage, and future. That evening, when the rain had stopped and the sky cleared, Emily stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, she felt free. She had faced betrayal, confronted it with truth, and emerged stronger than ever. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, new struggles to overcome, but she was ready. Armed with preparation, resilience, and unwavering determination, Emily Carter would face whatever came next. And she would never be underestimated again. The unseen battle had been won. And now, Emily could finally breathe. The morning sun broke gently over the quiet town, casting a soft glow over Emily Carter's bakery. The warmth of the day seemed to reflect the calm she had finally achieved after weeks of tension, strategy, and silent observation. Emily moved through the shop with ease, greeting customers with a genuine smile, her hands dusted with flour, her mind clear and unshaken. Behind her calm exterior, however, the recent storm still lingered in memory. Daniel and Margaret had attempted to manipulate her, to claim what was never theirs. But Emily had faced them with truth, documents, and unwavering courage, and emerged victorious. Yet she knew that the most difficult battles were not always fought on paper. Daniel approached her quietly that morning, holding a small cup of coffee. His expression was hesitant, his eyes apologetic. Emily, he began softly, I want to truly apologize. For everything. For my hesitation, for my weakness, for not standing by you sooner. Emily looked at him, her calm gaze steady. Daniel, apologies are meaningless without change. I need to see action, not just words. Daniel nodded solemnly. I understand, and I want to prove that I can be better, not just as your husband, but as a partner in everything, the bakery, the family. I want to support you the way you deserve. Emily allowed herself a small, measured smile. She knew that this was a turning point. Change wasn't instant, but acknowledgement was the first step. Later that day, Margaret arrived at the bakery. Unlike her usual commanding entrance, today she was tentative, almost vulnerable. Emily, she said carefully, I realize I misjudged you. I never saw the full extent of your dedication, your intelligence, your strength. The bakery, it's your life's work. I should have respected that. Emily met her mother-in-law's gaze, a mixture of surprise and guarded. Warmth in her expression. Margaret, I don't want resentment between us. We've all made mistakes, but it's not too late to start anew. Respect, honesty, and understanding, that's all I ask. Margaret nodded slowly, her pride softened. Agreed, and I want to help if you'll allow it. Not to control, but to support. For the first time in years, Emily felt a sense of reconciliation. The battle for her father's bakery had not only tested her courage, but also reshaped her relationships with those closest to her. She realized that strength was not just in defending oneself, but in knowing when to offer forgiveness and when to set boundaries. As the day unfolded, Emily returned to her work, guiding her staff, arranging freshly baked bread on display, and serving customers with a sense of calm authority. The bakery had grown not just because of her skill, but because of her vision, her perseverance, and her unwavering commitment to what she knew was right. That evening, after the last customer had left, Emily sat by the window, a cup of tea in hand. Daniel joined her, sitting quietly beside her. Neither spoke at first. They simply watched the sky change colors as the sun set, casting shades of gold, pink, and orange across the town. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "Emily, I've been so focused on what I wanted, or what my mother wanted, that I forgot what truly matters: family, love, trust, and the dreams that you carry with you. I don't want to repeat my mistakes." Emily reached out, placing her hand gently over his. "Then don't. Let this be a turning point for all of us. Let's build the bakery together, not as a battlefield, but as a home, as a legacy. That's how my father would have wanted it." Daniel squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with gratitude and remorse. "You're amazing, Emily. I don't know how I took you for granted for so long." Emily smiled softly. "It's never too late to change, Daniel, but remember, respect is earned every day, not just promised." That night, Margaret returned home quietly, reflecting on the day's events. She realized that she had been wrong to underestimate Emily's strength, that her attempts to control and manipulate had only strengthened the woman she had sought to overshadow. In the bakery, Emily locked the doors and turned off the lights, taking one last look at the space that had been her father's dream and now her life's work. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment, not just because she had defended her inheritance, but because she had done it with dignity, intelligence, and grace. She thought about the months of struggle, the whispered conversations she had overheard, the quiet nights she had spent preparing, the careful collection of every document, every proof that she was rightfully the owner. It had been exhausting, nerve-wracking, and emotionally taxing. Yet through it all, she had remained true to herself, true to her father's legacy, and true to her principles. Emily realized that her journey had taught her something invaluable. Strength is not measured by anger, retaliation, or dominance. It is measured by resilience, preparation, and the courage to stand firm in the face of betrayal. Days turned into weeks, and the bakery continued to flourish. Customers noticed a renewed energy in the shop, the warmth in Emily's smile, and the precision in the quality of her baked goods. Word spread, not just about the bread, but about the woman who ran the bakery with integrity and vision. Daniel, having learned a painful but necessary lesson, became an active partner, assisting Emily without overstepping, providing support, and genuinely respecting her decisions. Margaret, too, found a new role, not as a controller, but as an ally, offering guidance only when asked and respecting Emily's authority. One evening, as the family sat together for dinner, there was laughter, conversation, and a sense of unity that had been missing for years. Emily looked around the table and felt a profound sense of peace. She had defended the bakery, protected her father's legacy, and, in doing so, had also healed the fractures in her family. She realized that the battle she had faced was more than just about ownership. It was about respect, trust, and standing up for what is right. And in winning that battle, she had not only secured the bakery, but she had also earned the admiration, trust, and respect of the people who mattered most. As the night fell and the lights of the bakery twinkled softly against the quiet streets, Emily felt a quiet joy that came not from triumph alone, but from knowing that she had faced adversity with courage, wisdom, and unwavering integrity. Her father's legacy was safe, her family relationships were mending, and her own sense of self-worth had never been stronger. She knew challenges would come again, but she also knew that he had the strength, the intelligence, and the determination to face whatever lay ahead. And as she finally rested that night, Emily Carter allowed herself to smile fully, because the woman who had once been underestimated had not only defended her inheritance, but had also rewritten her own story, one of courage, dignity, and resilience. The bakery was more than just a business. It was a symbol of perseverance, family, and the quiet strength of a woman who refused to be silenced or overshadowed. And in that symbol, Emily found not just success, but peace. She had won the battle, secured the legacy, and more importantly, reclaimed her life,